All right, it's Monday, which means it's time for the weekend box office report, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. The Secret Life of Pets continued its dominating run at the box office, snagging the #1 spot for the second week in a row with $50.5 million, bringing its domestic total to an impressive $203.1 million after just 10 days in release. The animated movie already places higher than Disney's Tangled and just behind Pixar's Ratatouille on the all-time animated chart. Finishing at the #2 spot was Sony's Ghostbusters, which took in $46 million, representing the largest domestic opening for both director Paul Feig and Melissa McCarthy. Taking the #3 spot was The Legend of Tarzan with $11.1 million, bringing its domestic total past the $100 million mark with $103 million. At #4, Disney and Pixar's Finding Dory, which is now the highest-grossing animated release of all time domestically, adding $11 million to its domestic total of $445.5 million. Rounding out the top 5 is Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates with $7.5 million for a domestic total of $31.3 million. Christian, thoughts on Ghostbusters not taking the #1 spot?
That doesn't surprise me. I think we all predicted it just throughout the backlash and what it was tracking at. It actually hit lower than I thought. I thought it was going to do around 54 or 55, but whether it's just another remake, regardless of all the other issues that people were or weren't having with it, remakes of classics, no matter what it is, they just haven't really done well. There might be a couple of ones that have, but for the most part, they just aren't working, or people aren't getting that enthused about them. For me, the thing that stands out, it's not Pets, because Pets, the premise alone, it was 100 million or whatever it was, 105 last week, and to go but just around 50% or whatever it was, that's not that surprising. It's the 3, 4, and 5. All three of those movies with Tarzan and Mike and Dave and Dory, they just keep peppering. And it's just the Tarzan and Mike and Dave specifically, because Dory we knew was going to be this beast of a movie. But the way that Mike and Dave, we thought that was how much movie that was going to make in its run. And the fact that it is doing those types of numbers, it's already a success, 35 million or whatever the budget was. I haven't seen the film yet, but from some people didn't like it, but it doesn't matter because it's doing what the studio wanted it to. And Tarzan getting over 100 million, I didn't like that movie at all, but I can tell you that that's more of a hit, because I thought when it opened up, I was like, that's not that big of an opening, and it's still staying in there. So, it would be the 3, 4, and 5 that stand out to me. How about you, Dennis?
Well, definitely Ghostbusters is what everyone's going to be talking about.
Sure.
And for me, the box office results of that actually kind of mirror and reflect how I feel about the movie, where it's not a bomb.
Yeah.
But it also wasn't great. I thought it could have been a lot better. There's a lot of potential, a lot of stuff they left on the table. They could have made the movie. But it was kind of much ado about nothing. Like, I saw it and I was like, well, this isn't the crap fest that people claim it to be. And it wasn't that great either. So I think Sony's going to watch and see how much legs it has over the next few weeks, and then also internationally on whether they're going to take this another sequel and also spin it off into other properties. And Finding Dory is now, I think, the #1, at least for the domestic market, animated film of all time. It surpassed, I think, Shrek 2 or Shrek 3. It's made so much money, and it's only, how many weeks has it been only for that?
4 or something?
4 weeks.
Something.
It's still going to keep going, so that's another notable thing.
I mean, I'm as well. I'm not surprised with this Ghostbusters at all, because they said that it was Paul Feig's largest opening. I'm also surprised that this kind of tells me that Sony must have known or been tracking this, that they were like, well, we're giving this to the guy who opens at 30 million, and do we really expect him to open a movie at 100 million? Like, I mean, that should have been a little bit.
Even with the Ghostbusters title, though?
I don't know, but this movie kind of had like an anchor on pulling it back the entire time from the very beginning, just for being the remake and all that stuff like that. And you brought up the interesting thing about the 3, 4, and 5 spots. And I kind of wonder, it'll be curious to see how Ghostbusters does the second weekend. Now, it has 2 big things playing against it. It has Star Trek coming at it hard, and it has San Diego Comic-Con.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if Ghostbusters just disappears and maybe Finding Dory beats it next weekend, or if Ghostbusters can still hold at the 2 or 3 spot.
I think that's a great point, because you got a movie like Tarzan that stays in there, Mike and Dave that stays in there. For me, I don't know if Ghostbusters is going to stay in there. I don't know the kind of staying power it has, and because it does have a bit of a crossover audience, a bit with Star Trek for sure. I mean, it's comedy, but still, it's kind of the genre film. And then you're right with Comic-Con, and then the buzz hasn't been great on the movie. Because if you make a remake of a classic and people are going, it's not a crap fest. That's not an endorsement. It really, I mean, yeah, it wasn't as horrible as we thought it was going to be. And some people actually
Yeah, but you're never going to put that on a poster. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Look, I was like one of the last people to see. I saw it last night over here at the AMC Prime, and like I thought it was like okay, but there was a big contingent of the audience that were like laughing, like hysterically at it. So maybe that's the audience that.
Yeah, but I just don't know if that's going to repeat business. Though I mean, for me, it's just a matter of I'm always under the philosophy. It doesn't matter who's in the movie. If you're going to make a remake of a movie that is beloved, you either have to make it as good or better in order to do a remake. And that's anything. That's not just Ghostbusters or a comedy. That's any movie you feel like you want to remake. What's the take that is going? And I'm not saying that they don't think that this is better. It just clearly, with audiences and with critics, hasn't hit that level. So it's just a tricky thing because 44 million, whatever the hell it made for the amount of the budget and the marketing, they need to do a lot. They need to do internationally, they need to do really well. They need to do a lot in order for this thing to.
And we've already talked about that this movie is not going to China now. So that's going to hurt it as well.
Yeah.